Local Matters family, if you have ever been concerned about the criminal justice system, mass incarceration, and those factors that lead to people sitting in jail for long periods of time unnecessarily, today's episode is for you. Our guest, Ms. Courtney Teasley, is an attorney who has made it her mission to make sure that communities are empowered to disrupt that cycle of incarceration. She's going to talk to us about some of her success stories, how she got involved in this work, and what we as individuals in local communities throughout this country can do to change the narrative around mass incarceration, particularly related to individuals of color. Thanks so much for joining this episode of the Local Matters podcast of Georgia. Local Matters family, we are in for a treat today in the presence of Ms. Courtney Teasley. She is doing some fascinating work throughout this country, and we wanted to make you aware of it. As you know, our purpose here on Local Matters is to help people along their journey of becoming more engaged and more enlightened so that they can become more confident voters. And she has a lot to say about that topic in a very specific area related to individuals who have been marginalized and mistreated through our criminal justice system. So thank you so much, Courtney, for being a guest on Local Matters.
Thank you so much for having me, Janice. I am excited to dive in. I love your platform, love what you're doing. So super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine. And as usual, we'll get started with you describing a little bit about your background. If we look at how it was presented to me, it was Courtney Teasley, Esquire, but I think you're more than a basic lawyer. So tell us a little bit about how you decided to go into law and where you've taken it throughout these last few years.
Ah, how did I decide to start going into law is fully packed, but I always tell the story of, I am a product of the crack epidemic. Both of my parents were victims to it. And so I was raised by my grandmother in what I call the DAM community, DAMM, the disproportionately affected, marginalized minority community. And so growing up, I just saw the disparities in treatment. And one of the things that happened, one of my mom, she went to jail and she was a user this entire time. However, she was charged as a seller. And this is a common tactic used in the criminal justice system to overcharge people so that way they're likely to get a plea. We know that 97% of people take pleas, and often people are like, how does it happen? Well, because you're going to overcharge them to begin with. And so she got a lawyer who is a public defender who I'm sure was overworked, underpaid, didn't look into her case much, didn't look into her situation, and just played her out as a seller versus doing a little bit deeper work that I coach my lawyers to do, or the kind of lawyer that I am. We go deeper and start to see what the root cause is. And had she done that, she would have seen that, oh, she doesn't even have her children. Oh, she's clearly a user. Let me fashion some kind of resolution, which is align with what she actually did. And so that was a part of the time when I kind of got ignited and I was like, oh, this isn't fair. And then I went to law school and came out. Luckily, I had a great mentor. And when I came out, I opened my own law practice and just started doing exactly what I thought was right for the damn community from whence I came.
Got it. You have touched on so many things. I mean, grandparents raising children, crack epidemic, overworked public defenders, the whole notion that people will take a plea for anything because they think that's the easiest way out. There's just so many things to unpack there. And all of that has led you basically into a career to fight against all those things that have gone wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And you do this work out of where?
I do this work out of my lawyer work. I am licensed in Tennessee, and so that's where I had my law practice for the last 12 years, and that is where a lot of my all over the state of Tennessee is pretty much where I started my disruptive work.
Okay. All right. Very good. And does it go into other states and communities as well, or are you pretty much centered in Tennessee?
Oh no, we go into different states and communities. So that's why I created the legal literacy curriculum and books. I have a book series called The Easy Way to Learn Your Rights. And so that then pushed me into training advocates because every lawyer is not an advocate and every advocate is not a lawyer. And I have to say that. And I think you would know that, Janice, because of the work you do with the consulting. But when we think and look into this, a lot of people are like, oh, I got a lawyer on my board, so I'm good. What does your lawyer do? Do they even know how to practice? Are they a paper pusher, a plea pusher? Do they do
Mhm.
other areas? So every lawyer is not an advocate, and every advocate is not a lawyer. And so I started training advocates all over the country with our framework and our method. I have a training called the DAM Advocate Training, DAMM Advocate Training. And it is a 3-week intensive training, right? That we go really deep and learn proactive methods and ways to actually fight back against mass incarceration, proactive ways to fight for people who are fighting a case. And when I say proactive, that means prior to them taking a plea or being found guilty. And so the bulk of criminal justice reform efforts are solely coming after someone has already been found guilty or pled guilty. However, there's a lot of time on the front end. So that's where we like to focus our efforts proactively.
Okay, got it. And as you say that, I'm thinking about the folks who, for lack of a better term, seem like they've been left to rot in jail even before their trial takes place.
Come on now.
Some of these people, and of course, from my career in local government, running a jail is a part of what happens. Typically, that's under the sheriff. But, we still hear the stories, the jail's overcrowded. And you think, well, why is it overcrowded? And then they tell you somebody's been there for 18 months. And what's happening during that 18 months with somebody sitting there? What's happening and what could be happening to change that narrative?
Oh my God. So that's a good question, right? And in the training that I do with organizations, we use Khalif Browder as a case study, right? We know if you guys are familiar with the Netflix special of the Khalif Browder story, young man in New York who was held in jail for I think it was it 3 years waiting for a preliminary hearing, right? And the case just kept getting continued and continued. He was in Rikers Island this entire time. He's a child in Rikers Island at this entire time. And then when he comes out, he's hard for him to cope, hard for him to deal. And so what happens is he ended up unaliving himself because he couldn't deal with the trauma. And so we like to use that as a case study because I like to step in and say, hey, let's say Khalid Browder had a lawyer who actually gave a care, right? Let's say he actually had a community of advocates who were going to court, they were court watching, demanding to know what's going on, demanding to understand why the judge keeps continuing this case, demanding to know why the district attorney is gone every other day. If you had people who actually cared, let's see how this could have potentially came out and then how we can fight for others. And so your question of what's happening while people are waiting for their case, well, what's happening is these people have, again, like I was saying about my mom, they've been overcharged, right? They have multiple charges stacked, and this is intentionally. So you're more likely to take a plea because you're going to get a lawyer who probably doesn't know anything about your case, doesn't really care to know, and is going to say, oh my God, it looks so bad. All of these things, there's so many of them. I talked to the district attorney, you can just plead to this one thing and then you can get out today. And so what's happening is a bunch of nothing. You're just going back and forth to court. You're waiting to talk to your lawyer. Your lawyer is negotiating. We're supposed to be negotiating with the state. Your lawyer should be investigating your case. Your lawyer should be looking into actual creative and innovative ways to solve this case, to be able to resolve it, right, with the least impact to your record, and that is actually aligned with what you actually did. That's what should be happening. But oftentimes you're just going back and forth. You're not really speaking to your lawyer. You're not being informed on what's going on. And the case keeps getting continued due to maybe the state. And when I say the state in different states, you may call it something else, but it could be the government. It could be the people, whatever in your state you call it. But the point is the state. And so the district attorney's office, they are waiting on a witness. They're out of town. And then your judge is just pretty much going along with whatever the state needs. Don't forget that judge is also being paid by the state a lot of times. So everything that's happening prior is just a lot of back and forth with really no lawyer that is demanding your speedy trial, that is demanding your rights, right, be protected. You don't really have a lot of that going on.
And of course, your work focuses on the marginalized minority. As you say that, I keep thinking about somebody who may look a little bit different, somebody who may have a different set of financial resources, and therefore may be able to have a mom or dad or somebody who's going to contact a lawyer who's going to be well paid to make sure that this continuous back and forth doesn't go on for 18, 24,
Oh,
36
now.
months,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Absolutely. You're so right. And that is, I mean, I just want to say the marginalized minority. So we're all African Americans are, 6 times more incarcerated than the 60% white majority. That's just the fact. And so a lot of times people think that, oh, it's just, it's just poor, it's just the poorer people, or it's just the people over there who got their pants hanging down and, they're doing all these things. No. It's all of us, right? And then the vast majority of people are not living, they're living right above the poverty line, right? And so they're not even qualifying for the government assistance or the public defenders or something of that nature. And so when you have people who are just statistically more likely to come in contact with the criminal justice system, you gotta be a little bit more savvy, right? You gotta understand how these different things work, and you gotta understand what your rights are and how you can protect those rights. Which, when someone lawyers up, like if you have a parent who actually knows what to do, right, and they're like, "Oh no, you want to talk to my kid." Actually, I need to protect my child's Fifth Amendment right against self incrimination, right? So because of that, I'm going to say, hey, we're not speaking to the police at this moment. I'm going to go hire a lawyer, and then we'll have them reach out to you. That one thing alone, and it's literally the reason why I wrote the book, my book, on the Fifth Amendment, is because that one little thing can literally cut down on the amount of people who are being charged, and it's only due to themselves. They're going in and they're trying to prove their innocence in some way, but not realizing this system is jacked up and they don't really care about what you're saying. They just want to close this case. You look like a likely suspect. We'll let the court figure it out, right? We're going to charge you. We're going to use your words, whatever you said, turn it against you, make it. So yeah, it is deep. It's just deep.
It is, but and I'm thinking, my little government bureaucrat self, all these sheriffs are out asking for more money to build bigger jails.
Mhm.
Uh, when it seems like a whole bunch of the time, folks are there for way too long and for things that they probably didn't do to begin with.
Yep. I totally agree. I totally agree. I mean, that's the thing. That's the times. We know that the criminal justice system, if we just look at it, how did it evolve? Right? Where did it come from? Right? We know slavery. We know the black codes, right? We know all of these different lines, and all the way to through Jim Crow. The criminal justice system is just is a means of control. So asking for money to build bigger jails, that's not by happenstance, right? That's not
Mhm.
by chance. This is literally predicted. This is what it is. This is the method for how we control the minority, right? Whatever it is, we know they don't have enough money to, we might have enough money for one lawyer, but if that lawyer jacks you over, I don't have enough money for this other lawyer, right? And that's usually what's going to happen. Or if I got enough money for that lawyer, oh, I need an investigator. Oh, I need an expert in this case. Oh, I don't have any money for that. And if your lawyer doesn't care and is not savvy, or not staying in the community, or not looking at ways to be able to get you the things you need without, going deeper into your pockets, then, they're just funneling you into these jails. Everybody gets paid. Right. The criminal justice system and mass incarceration is not decreasing because of all the reactive efforts and the fact that it is literally paying everyone. It's putting money in everyone's pocket. So that's the issue.
So you believe there's an economic incentive for,
Absolutely.
okay, all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For everyone involved, right? Even that lawyer. Even that defense lawyer, I always tell people, I'm like, oh my God, we know we're fighting against everyone in the world, right? We know we're fighting the state. We know we're fighting the district attorney. We know we're fighting the judge. We know we're fighting all these policies,
Mhm.
legislators, all this stuff. But what happens when your last line of defense, my lawyer, is complicit in this situation as
Yeah,
well? There's literally no hope. And so that's
yeah.
pretty much why I had to move from practicing to training advocates and coaching lawyers in a different way of practicing, in a different way of protecting our communities.
Okay. And if you can, tell us a little bit about what the solution is. You know, what does a good lawyer do, a good advocate do? As you pointed out, there's a difference between a lawyer and an advocate. What does a good advocate do to prevent that scenario from playing out over and over and over again?
They disrupt. I love it. They disrupt proactively, right? So again, they come in early on. When someone, and this is and I don't want to go, I'm not going to go so deep down that line, but I will say this is the issue and why I created a guide for churches, 7 proactive ways your church can disrupt mass incarceration. Because the first thing is we have to disrupt that mindset around it. People literally don't like to help early on because of the stigma around the criminal, right? This person's guilty. They had to have done something. Where it's like, well, if you think a little bit deeper, the mindset, like how does a person even get involved in the criminal justice system? It only takes probable cause. So it only takes that someone's probably guilty, not truly guilty, right? So what it looks like when an advocate is proactively disrupting, it looks like they're showing up to court watch. It looks like they are seeing how everybody's being treated. They see what the judge is doing. They see what the lawyer is doing. They see what the state is doing. They're looking and seeing what's going on in this case. Then they are proactively going to organize the community, right? To actually keep their eyes on the system. If there's some things that are janky about that case, or there's some things that someone's gotten pulled over and pulled out or whatever it is, oh, well, we're going to start using our civic duties to request records, right? We're going to request, we have a right because you work for us. So we want to know, let me see that body cam footage. Let me see that affidavit. Let me look into this. What was the reason they said they pulled this person over? And so those are very basic grassroots things that we can do when proactively, meaning showing the state, the government that, hey, we're watching you. We care about this person. They are not just another person you're just going to be able to do whatever to. And we're going to go report back to the community what we're seeing in real time. We're not going to wait until you've already made them a felon. We're not going to wait until you spin your narrative. We're going to look for ourselves. We're going to be engaged. And then the community has the ability to create different, and sometimes this is on your lawyer to be able to go find organizations. And that's why it never gets done because the lawyers are too busy. But you can literally create resolutions. So if I know that my client stole something and they're just stealing because, they don't have money or whatever, they wanted to do whatever, they stole something. Okay, cool beans. Let me see what the root cause of why you're stealing. Okay, you don't have consistent income. All right. So let me see if I can reach out to this organization who I know already cares about this system. They're already doing things proactively. Do you all have any mentorship opportunities? Do you all have any type of community service opportunities? Anything where we can rehabilitate versus solely incarcerate? So then it just becomes important to fix that proactively, to get that in place proactively. So that way you're going to the state, the government, the district attorney, and you're proposing how to resolve this case, because they're always going to propose jail. They're always going to propose something that's just going to bring them back into the system versus holistically healing the issue. And I think that lawyers and advocates are in the best places to fix that, to be able to fashion what that looks like, and then to go to the state and actually propose it. Right. So those are ways that we get to work together as a community. You got the lawyers, you got the advocates, you got the organizations, right? Churches, community centers, associations, anybody who cares.
Thank you so much for that. And there's one other piece of this. You mentioned judges. Obviously, they're a huge piece. You're in a courtroom, there's a lawyer, a couple lawyers, but there's also got to be a judge too. How do you see us, and it's the broad us, it's all of us, who have the opportunity to elect the people who are sitting on the bench? Uh, do you see judges exercising the right type of compassion? What sorts of roles do they play in all of this?
Oh my God. So the judges are, I like to call the judges. And when I'm training my lawyers and on how to practice law, not just how to scale their business, but like when I'm actually showing them how to practice, I try to let them know the judges are like the parents in this situation, right? The state and the criminal defense attorney, the district attorney and the criminal defense attorney, we're like the children, siblings. We're going to argue, we're going to try to come up with a resolution, but at the end of the day, if we cannot, we're going to go in front of the judge. And the judge
Mhm.
has a lot of discretion. And so when we're having hearings, whether they're letting in different evidence, whether they are sustaining objections solely that the state gives, like if the state makes an objection for whatever reason and they just go along with whatever the state does, just you'll notice that, right? The pattern, just like, okay, the state said this, well, I agree with the state, right? And then they're not being fair to the other side. Judges in sentencing, have a lot of discretion as well. Sometimes their hands are tied by whatever the law says, but they usually have a lot of discretion in that. You're just gonna see in how they basically referee. How they referee, are they more neutral like they're supposed to be, or are they leaning to the other side like they often tend to do? And so that is how the judges play a role. And so as citizens, right, especially
Mhm.
churchgoers, and these people who are judges, they're coming around, and they are, when it's time to get elected, they're all in your church. They're like, oh yeah, I've done this and I've done ABCDFG and blah blah blah, and we'll see them and we're like, oh yes, oh good, they're good for the community, but you never step foot in the courtroom. You never really see them in their environment. You don't see how they act. So I know when we in Nashville, I unseated a judge, and we made Nashville history doing so. It was the first time a criminal court judge had ever been unseated. And so when we did that, we had to see and look like, hey, community, I know you're saying you like this judge, but do you know this judge? Right? Have you ever been in front of him
And the answer is no.
at all? They don't. They
Who
don't
don't
know
know what
you.
they're doing? Who do not know what they're doing?
They don't. And you're exactly right. So my thing is community. Come actually, involve yourself in organizations that watch these judges day in and day out. You got to see them not just one time when you come in and they're on their best behavior. You got to see how they rule. You got to see the balls and strikes that they're calling. You got to be able to see for yourself the decisions that they're making. And then you got to see how it is harmful for the damn community, disproportionately affected
Mhm.
marginalized minority community.
Mhm. Okay. So many directions I want to take this. I'll start with this question. As we have seen more people of color get the opportunity to serve in roles as judges, do you think that's really translated into better outcomes for those who are disproportionately affected and marginalized minorities? Has it really changed the narrative?
Oh, so funny. The judge that we unseated is a person of color. So you'll see in these different realms that you're gonna get judges who are from marginalized backgrounds who just get it. They have a better understanding. They have a lot more compassion. They get, the entirety, of evening the scales. They even the scales, right? But you also gonna have the opposite happen. You're gonna have those that get in and then they get the only me-itis, like, hey, I'm only here and I'm the one, and I'm friends with this person, and let me show you how hard I can be on that. Those people, they didn't get their stuff together, so that they're consistently accepted in their community, which is with other judges, right? Which is with other, with police and prosecutors and things of that nature. And so they don't want to get a name of being too lenient, or they don't want to get a name for or doing anything against them. So then they tighten the reins on their own community more than any other judge would. So you're going to see both of those, and that's why it's so important for the community to lock in with court watching, or even if it's not you yourself court watching, or if your church has a ministry, right? Maybe they do a proactive justice ministry and you make court watch a part of it. I help churches set that up, but even if it's not you yourself doing it, check in with the ones that do it. Check in, right? Maybe you are checking in with the community in some way to see what the temperature is in these courtrooms.
Right. So it's a community approach. You either be
Exactly.
there yourself or you talk to somebody who is there. So you have a feel for what really happens. And that reminds me of, voting for judges. I'm so glad we live in a country where we have the right and the privilege to vote for them. But oftentimes I feel like we're so unprepared. I mean, we know if he or she's going to be a great judge or not.
You never know. You never know. It's like, but that's the thing. You want when a judge is running for office or a lawyer is running for a judicial office, that is the time when they're most vulnerable. Okay, because they have been used to getting, if they're already a judge, they're used to getting these big old salaries, or whatever from the government, and they need to keep that. Right. And so because of that, they're super vulnerable and they're going to be coming around saying all types of different things that sound good, but you want to dive into the people who've actually been keeping record, who've been watching these judges in the inside, and you want to flame them up when it comes time to when they're going around and they're trying to ask for your vote. You want to flame them up with questions. You want to throw back some things that occurred. I don't care if it occurred. Our judges sit for like 8 years.
Eight
Our
years?
girl, I know, right?
Is it one term is 8 years?
One term,
Oh my.
8
I don't
full.
think I've ever heard of that.
It's horrid. And I actually, when I ran that race, I started looking at other states. There are other states that have a little bit long. I know up north, like I want to
Mhm.
say the Connecticut and I don't know which one it was, but I made a list of all the ones that had more time than we did. And it's not a whole lot, but there are a few states that let their judges sit longer. But the problem is when I was able to look at that, I did that because I needed to educate the community on why this local judicial election is so important. It only comes up every 8 years. And so you think it doesn't affect you right now. You got a little 13-year-old or something, they get in trouble in a couple years. They're in front of this judge, it will affect you. And so literally the judges sit so long that you have to connect with people who have been watching, or you have to remember some things that came up so that way you are able to put that back on them. And then a lot of times they're going to say, oh, I can't speak about this. Oh, it's like if it's a current, well, like, listen, judge, look, here's your record. This is what you've been doing. And I'm telling you, it's not okay with our people. And then our community has to be prepared to put somebody up to run against that judge.
Okay. And is that how you got the judge out? The person you made reference to, you all just watched
Oh,
and figured out there's something really wrong here, and you got somebody else to run against him?
we didn't just watch, we practiced in that courtroom,
Okay.
right? We
Okay.
were Black women who had practiced in that courtroom and had to like file judicial complaints on this judge had
Okay.
already done things that in the community, another judge had been disgraced for some going to Costa Rica and doing some stuff he ain't had no business doing or whatnot. This judge had been a part of that. They had taken a private discipline. This judge had made a decision in a couple of cases where, like in one case, a Black man had been shot in the back of the head by an officer, and that judge allowed him to take a plea that was just like 3 years. It was just everything was very covert in how they did it. They really didn't. The state didn't tell. It was just a lot that had went on with this
Mhm.
judge, and so we basically were able to articulate that to the community. Like, look, I know they don't make a big deal about this in the news, but this is a big deal. This is a person who determines your life. And then I had a one of my very first lawyer coaching clients. When she came out, I helped her open her own law practice and start, fighting and making money and whatnot. She was the one who we put against the judge, and she was severe introvert.
Mhm.
But we were able to, myself and my mentor, we were able to really utilize our experience as lawyers, our network as lawyers, our network in general, to be able to mesh that with her and really push and say, hey, y'all, this is what's going on in the community. We have a candidate who is from our community, who is going to be better for serving our community, who has, a better, all of these different things. And we had to educate our community, right? We had to talk to
Yeah.
them and tell them why this is important. And that's how we were able to unseat that judge.
So it took a concerted effort
Did,
from multiple people, but you all
did.
got it done,
There
basically.
you go.
Okay.
We had to
Okay.
ignite the community. We had to
Okay.
ignite the community, and that's important in any election.
Okay. Thank you so much for that because that's just, one of the foundations of local matters is that we want people to understand that, yeah, you do have some power to control your quality of life. Voting is a responsibility, but the trick is learning how to do it, particularly with these judicial races,
Yes,
which, as you know, people get in seats and they stay there absolutely forever.
too long.
And yeah, and we don't know the net damage that has been done most of the time. So working through churches and other types of civic organizations, you're able to make a difference. That is fabulous.
You are so right.
Um, and do you focus your energy now? Of course, you're in Nashville, but have you been able to help others effectuate similar strategies in other areas of the country?
Absolutely. And so after I did a case, and that's where I created one of my frameworks for criminal defense organizing,
Mhm.
in a case called hashtag Disrupt Manchester, where a black family with 5 children were coming from Georgia, and they came through Manchester, Tennessee, and they had their 5 children taken from them and forced into foster care all over marijuana, a very small amount of marijuana. And so after that happened, I knew, and what we know, and I think it's important for people to understand, is that what we knew as people of color in Nashville is that city, that county is known as a sundown town. And so the way that we had to fight that was we had to go back and do what we know our ancestors did, right? Like when you did in Selma. What is the reason that we went across that bridge and took all of those beatings? Is because we needed the world to see that in real time. This is what they're doing to Black people. And so we took that same strategy, which was we took the media with us. We went, we had press release, we made sure that we had all eyes in the community watching this small town, and we were able to force those children out from them in 56 days versus the year that people say it usually takes once children have been forced into foster care. And so I created that damn advocacy training around that time frame because I had to ignite the community to care about what they were doing in real time. And so I had lawyers who had cases in different parts of the where, like my friend in California had a case, and she had a friend who is over here, I believe in North Carolina. I don't know if it's Charlotte, but she had a friend in North Carolina dealing with something similar. And so what I did was start training them on the methods that we use to be able to fight these cases in real time. And so that's how I started focusing my energy to move outside of just Tennessee because it happens all over. It's happening all over the world. But you need, and that's why I'm also interested in connecting with disruptors in many different states. And so when I say a disruptor, I'm talking about if you have a lawyer who you know is not afraid to push the limit, who's not afraid to challenge the powers that be. If you have people that are doing that, right, that want to challenge things that are unfair, unjust, things of that nature, well then come see me. I activate you. I give you all the information you need, the legal literacy knowledge that you're going to need, the actual organizing knowledge you're going to need, all of those different things. And then we're able to help you create a strategy for fighting whatever you're dealing with at that time.
That is absolutely awesome work. And I'm going to ask now, I usually ask at the end, but before we get to the end, how do people reach out to you? How do they get in touch with you? How did they learn more about you and your work?
I love that question. Thank you. So, you guys on here, you can see like YouTube is a great place. I have a YouTube called The Black Law Girl Rant,
Okay.
RANT. And so,
Mhm.
as at Black Law Girl on YouTube, go subscribe, follow. You'll see me there fighting all types of stuff. And that's actually where I bring the bridge the gap with the
Mhm.
criminal justice and social justice, and bridge it with the financial literacy. Right? We bridge that gap and bring it.
Financial literacy is a piece as well. Yeah, tell
Oh,
me more about that because that's near and dear to my heart. Years ago, I took a course from a biblical perspective. It's called Crown Financial Ministries, and they offer like it's a 12 part course where it teaches you how to manage your money according to biblical principles and, figuring out what you need versus what you want and all that stuff that gets people into trouble. They had us doing things like writing down everything we spent for a week, and
yeah.
everything. So we can figure out, did I really need that or not? But that whole idea of teaching you how to budget and how to manage your money is just so important. So yeah, talk a little
I
bit more
agree.
about your emphasis on financial management.
Yeah, let me tell you that. So, oh, and speaking of, like, when you were just talking about churches, I actually did a lecture earlier this year called Advocating for the Least of Us: How Churches Can Have a Greater Role in Ending Mass Incarceration. And for your listeners today, I'm going to make sure I send you over the guide that I have that says Defending the Oppressed: 7 Ways Churches Can Disrupt Mass Incarceration. A lot of information will be in there for your users. But to speak to what you're talking about, the front, I had also did a talk called From Survival to Strategy: Why Financial Power is a Prerequisite for Social Justice. And
Mhm.
so a lot of times, let's just call it what it is. When we're being called to help our community, the thought process is you just need to do it for free. You just need to give away all your time, give away all your energy. Who cares? You know what I mean? You want to help your community, right? Well, listen, that's not smart. And we have to be strategic in these fights. We got to be making sure we're utilizing our power and our harnessing our energy. And so real change is not going to be built on burnout. We needed power, right? And because we need power, we need resources. And so, just like when I unseated the judge, we needed resources,
For
right?
sure, for
We
sure. Because elections are expensive. You've got to get the person's name out, everything from yard signs to radio ads, TV ads, social media posts, all that kind of stuff. Some of it costs money.
hello,
Mhm.
it costs money. So that's just in an election. But if we need sustainable solutions, so and if we want to create those things, when I was doing the case that I was telling you about, hashtag disrupt Manchester, one of the things that we needed to force those kids out of foster care was an expert
Mhm.
toxicologist. So we
Mhm.
needed to, that costs money. It's a doctor.
Yeah,
Okay. And we
yeah, right, right.
are not cheap. And so
Mhm.
these people had their money taken by 2 lawyers. And so they've already given money out, and then they had to hire another lawyer. They are spent when it comes to money, especially having to travel back and forth to see their children. And so money was needed to be able to force those children's to force
Mhm.
those children out of that unjust situation,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm always challenging people to understand that financial literacy is definitely a part of the curriculum. It's a
Mhm.
part. We know civics. All right, now we know legal literacy. Well, y'all, financial literacy has got to be involved in that if we want sustainable solutions, not those that you start up for a little bit and then you run out of donor funds, and now we no longer can have that initiative. That's ineffective, right?
Mhm.
We have to be able to fund our own initiatives that we know are good for the damn community. We have to be able to do that. And so, anywho, that's why financial literacy is so huge. The more money we make, the more disruption that we can have. The more that we are not underwater, sinking and trying to worry about how we're going to live, the more time we have and creativity we have to think about how I actually can assist others, right? Where I have this energy to put. So that's why financial literacy is so huge. It's not just
Mhm.
for just you, it's for so many others, right?
Okay, got it. Got it. Got it. Thank you. I'm going to ask one question completely out of left field, but we're talking and we're having a great conversation. I want to ask this. Certainly, I definitely appreciate the fact that there are many, many people who are sent into the prison system and don't have any business being there. And they emerge from the system worse than they were when they went in, which, of course, is a reason to prevent mass incarceration Have you though seen times where there may have been somebody you fought to get out of the system that sort of that you regretted later on and you felt like, gosh, that person really needed to be there?
So I love that you asked that question. Um, Here's the kicker. And this is a question I answer all the time for my lawyers too, my young lawyers. People think they just come out knowing how to do everything and they don't. They'll come out and it's like, how do I represent a guilty person? Listen, that's the job is to remember the Constitution. My job is not to free. I'm not just out. You're not out here trying to uh, uh, oh, I'm winning this case. This guilty person is walking free. No, the system doesn't work like that at all. The system works how where we remember the rights that we have. We go back to the Constitution and we remember that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And
Mhm.
why are they innocent until proven guilty? Because guess how they get into the system to begin with? Through probable cause. That just means that you probably did something. Who makes that determination that you probably did something? A cop that has had less than 6 weeks of any kind of basic training and that comes with all of their motive and
Yeah,
bias and issues against the
yeah.
community that they're actually policing. Oh, that's how that person got into this system. It's easy for them to get here. Oh, okay. So now they're in this system. What happens? All right, well, probable cause is the threshold for the preliminary hearing. Did they probably do it? Probable cause is the threshold for the grand jury. Did they probably do it? They never ever really get to beyond a reasonable doubt because 97% of people take pleas. So, your job as a lawyer, right? Our job as the community and advocates is to make the state, make the government do their job, make them prove their case and protect the rights of the person who is accused. If you truly do that, then you are gaining leverage to actually force the state, the government, to give a resolution that is aligned with what this person actually did versus trying to railroad them and get more time out of them, more money out of them, more anything out of them. So the job, no, I never fought a case and regretted it. I've never fought a case and regretted it because what my job is to make the state prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And so throughout, since we're never usually going to get to a jury trial before people
Mhm.
fizzle out,
Right.
my job is to show the state everywhere that they're lacking in this case. So that way they can finally come off of this unreasonable offer that you're giving based off of the probably that this cop brought in front of you. There was no actual investigation done. There was no actual, there's nothing pointing that this is exactly what this person did, that this is what they need to plead to. We are fighting the case relentlessly so that way we can just get what's fair to begin with because they're not going to give us what's fair to begin with. So that's why I've never regretted it. And that's why lawyers should not. Like when you're representing someone, your thought process is not only representing the guilty person, is, oh, has this person's rights been violated? Am I investigating this case to listen to what their side is? Am I seeing, is there any evidence to actually prove what they're saying actually occurred? And then, yes, if they did something, then your job is to fashion a resolution that actually solves the root problems. Not just superficial problem of sending them to jail because that's not helping anyone. They're going to go to jail, they're going to come out, they're going to reoffend.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's the job. So that's why I have never regretted.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. We just got a couple minutes left. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for joining our Local Matters family. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we close out this episode?
Yes, I do. I know me and you, we've been talking and we kind of got off. You guys, again, so find me on YouTube. Go over and find me on LinkedIn, the Courtney Teasley on LinkedIn. I'm the Courtney Teasley on Instagram, also Facebook. You'll see me everywhere. One thing I love to share to you all is this. Listen, asserting your rights is not disrespectful. It is power. It is protection, right? And so I created this book series just for you all. I don't have any legal jargon in it. I have the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth
Okay.
Amendment book, and I want you all to. I mean, it's very. We do a book bundle. I think that this needs to be taught at just like Sunday school, right? It needs to be
Okay.
taught in Sunday school. It needs to be taught in our kitchens. It needs to be taught in wherever we are in our centers. We have to be training ourselves because we didn't get this information. You know, we went to school this entire time. We were never taught legal literacy. And it's a reason we were never taught it. Because when you know that, you're empowered. You know how to protect your rights. You know how to assert your rights. And so I take out all the legal jargon. I get straight to the point of what you need to know. We even have some illustrations in there that help you teach others. We have a syllabus inside that helps you teach others. So the thought process is each one teach one, right? You learn your rights and then you teach someone else their rights.
Okay. Yeah. As you were saying that, I was guessing, yeah, the lawyers probably don't want us to be able to hold them accountable. So, so
Hello?
they must have known.
Hello? Because they want you to be so reliant on them that you never question them. And you don't do that. That's not, you got to advocate on behalf of yourself, just like you do what we're talking about with your doctors, advocating on behalf of yourself to your doctors. You got to advocate on behalf of yourself to your lawyer too.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Courtney, for being a guest on Local Matters. This has been fabulous. And who knows, there may be some other occasions where you can come back and talk to us a little bit more about your progress throughout the country.
Absolutely.
Blessings to you. I close with my favorite Bible verse, 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. This show is designed to contribute to each of those, giving you the power that comes with knowledge, demonstrating love for your local community, and offering you wisdom for decision making so that you possess a sound mind when it comes to these topics. Please tune in to Local Matters next week as we drop new episodes every Wednesday on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and sometimes YouTube. Thanks so much for being a part of the Local Matters family.